Welcome to Hopscotch-N-Jacks,
a podcast where we take our inner child
back to school to unpack and unlearn
the lessons that shaped us to better ourselves
and our futures. I'm Karen.
And I'm Justice. Let's go. And now it's time for our morning announcements.
Bumble recently announced that it's cutting 30% of their staff. Is this a sign of app dating decline or a sign of the recession? There's no doubt that an unsteady economy and AI entering the workforce is having a negative effect on employment rates, but it looks like the writing is on the wall for dating apps. After COVID lockdowns began to lift, apps reported a 16% drop in users who cited fatigue and frustration. There's been a steady decline since then. JP Morgan says that this news from Bumble comes as no surprise. But are you surprised?
No, I'm not surprised because New York Times has reported that in 2025, there is a new way to date. The old-fashioned way.
Okay.
I love how the old is new and the new is the old. It's kind of interesting, right? So it looks like millennials and Gen Zers and Xers and whatever you want to call them are logging off the apps and they're exploring love in the wild. They in them streets. Now, there are events that have been hosted and set up in the IRL. I thought I'd add some acronyms here since we are living in a digital real world scenario. And for those that you don't know what IRL stands for, that's in real life. Okay, so there are events that have been set up in real life, meetups and whatever you want to say. And well, let's just say this. It's wild out there. It is if people have never dated in the real world before. You're having middle school experiences all over again. Guys on one side, the girls on the other. Who's going to make the first move? If I do make the first move, what should I say? Is my breath okay? Or better yet, that was so corny of me to say, I wish I can delete that. The fact is, in the real world is in, and the dating apps are out. So we're going to have to overcome certain fears, right? So speaking of Bumble, I don't know why JP Morgan is so surprised. I mean, Bumble has reported that it's lost more than $40 billion in market value since 2021. And the reason why it's declining is because people are looking for vulnerability. And vulnerability is valued in dating. And that is just something that is a miss when you're dating in dating apps. So with that said, that's one of the reasons why we decided to do this episode, Dating the Avatar.
I can understand why the dating apps are out and dating in the real world is in. But I don't know if it's because people are more vulnerable. I mean, there's a level of vulnerability in dating in real life that's not present in dating, in online dating. But for the most part, people are people. And a lot of people are out there dating and they're not serious or they're not ready or they're not whatever it is, but they're not vulnerable for real.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. And I mean, you know my story. I'm a flip-flopper on the seesaw. It's called seesaw, right?
Seesaw. Teeter-totter.
Teeter-totter. I teeter-totter in those apps. But, you know, right now I'm in incognito and then on another one I'm paused. I'm not finding that the algorithm's really acknowledging my filters, you know,
and you're paying for it, right?
And I'm paying for it. And so, but then when it did acknowledge what was in my filters, you know, that level of vulnerability in the app, I could decide to respond immediately or wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And people will still respond. And I'm like, okay, so if you're responding after 2 weeks, then what are your intentions in this app? You know?
What does that mean? Are you dinging people for responding to you after you've ghosted for 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm dinging.
You're not supposed to accept my bad behavior.
Yes, you're not supposed to, and I'm not supposed to be doing that. It shows like are we really interested in each other? Or are we just bored, or are we just still trying to figure something out?
I mean, I think each individual is going to have a different response to that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there is any one way in which to know whether or not someone is serious outside of giving them an opportunity. Because maybe they were giving you, they were busy, but they were giving you grace because they actually liked you. Like, there's a lot of reasons why someone might not respond immediately and still be okay with you, or you not responding immediately and then being okay with you circling back. Like,
I mean, that's facts. I
don't like a 2-week thing, but personally, a lot of times I'm like, I don't owe you anything. So why should you respond to me in this timely fashion? I understand the frustration, and if it's happened 2 or 3 times in a row and I'm just like, oh no, then I'm just not going to go on the app for a while. I'm not on the apps like that anymore.
No, you're down to one app.
I'm down to one app, and I generally use it when I'm bored.
On the shitter.
The shitter, literally.
And speaking of the shitter, in real life, you will know if someone's being vulnerable with you and really are interested in you. Because I feel like in real life, there's expectations when you start texting, or when you get them on the phone, or when you FaceTime them, or if you actually go on that first date and you meet. There's a next level that you graduate to. And so you expect to be able to have a conversation, and if you can't respond 2 weeks later, you'll say, hey, I just want to give you a heads up, I'm going to be busy. But if you're in the app, you're still in the app. You haven't even passed go yet. You're just there, So, yeah.
So do you feel like once someone has gotten off of the app with you and you're texting, they then owe you something?
It's not about owing anyone that. It's about the fact that you are now... I think the next step outside the app is trying to see if this is going to go somewhere. Is this going to be a friendship, or is it going to be a relationship? It's not about owing. And I don't like the word owing. I think when you start using a relationship, or if you're talking to somebody and you're using words like, oh, I don't owe you anything. It's not about owing somebody anything. It's the fact that it's a sense of just normal respect that we should be giving, and grace that we should be giving to one another. And you don't owe an explanation for certain things. And when you say that, that's more of a defensive mechanism versus I'm genuinely trying to get to know you. I'm genuinely trying to see if this is going to spark a next level in our relationship. Is it just going to be a situationship? But if you start saying, well, just because I started talking to you outside the app, it means nothing. Well, it could have meant something for that person, because they would just stayed in the app talking to other people if they weren't thinking that this can go someplace else. So
it's your responsibility to keep talking to someone because they might have stayed in the app. Do you get off the app? If you start talking to someone, do you get off the app?
No, I don't get off the app until it's going to be, there's a mutual understanding that we are now in a relationship.
How long does that take?
It depends on the two people. You got some people that can fall for someone within a day, some people that can take 3 weeks, some people can be on the apps for months.
For you?
For me, it's usually about 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm still trying to get to know you, but but the thing is that even though I'm talking to you outside the app and I still have the app on my phone and my avatar is in the app, doesn't mean I'm necessarily on the app.
Right. I get you. I hear you.
All right. So what's that?
Oh, it sounds like it's story time.
Oh. Ding, ding, dong.
Okay, so I have a story for you.
Okay.
Okay, so have you ever played the game MASH?
Mm-mm.
So it's a fortune-telling game that I played as a child. The game was a way to explore the many options that awaited us in adulthood. Would I live in a mansion, an apartment, shack, or house? MASH, get it?
So it's acronym.
Yeah, it's an acronym for
Okay.
mansion, apartment, shack, house.
Got it.
The rules are simple. I got to pick 3 in every category, and the person I played with would choose 1. Usually something fun or humorous, probably something I did not like or want. When it was time to pick a mate, I chose Will Smith, Joey Lawrence, and the famous Jet Jackson. I ain't know shit. And
Jack Jackson, who's that?
the Jet Jackson.
Jet Jackson, who's that?
You don't remember the famous Jet Jackson?
No.
That was a TV show on the Disney Channel. Oh, I forget.
So it was a cartoon?
No.
Oh, it's a person?
Yes.
A real person?
Yes.
Interesting. I like how you have a mixed group of people. You got black, white, I don't know, what's Jet Jackson's race?
He's black.
He's
Well,
black.
he was black.
Yeah. All right. Just saying, you mixed it up. Go ahead.
Yeah. I had a thing for white boys with long hair. No clue. Anyway, and depending on if they were friend or foe, my partner would choose Mario Lopez or Flavor Flav. And that would continue until all the choices were set. I picked a number from a paper cube and the choosing process would commence. The choice was then out of my hands. I could wind up with 2 kids or 8. The game was diabolical. There was a 1 in 4 chance that I would end up a doctor, a lawyer, a writer, or a prostitute. In under 15 minutes, my life was decided. 30 years later, I don't know how I got to an apartment with no mate, no kids, and no New York Times bestseller. The hell. I long for the simplicity of only having 4 choices, 3 options that I would welcome, and only 1 fuck shit thing that life could throw at me. It's thrown several. But there's at least one thing that I am grateful for, and that is that I'm not married to Flavor Flav.
So you're not married to Flavor Flav.
Yeah.
You live in an apartment, so you got the A part of MASH.
Yeah.
You don't have kids, so some people might be like, oh, that's a positive.
It's not for me because I want kids.
Okay, so life.
That's how I saw my life. I always chose 2, 3, 4 number of kids because I always wanted to have at least 2 because I grew up kind of like only child with 2 older siblings.
Okay.
And like they were out of the house by the time I was playing this game, or maybe a few years. Well, actually, by the time I stopped playing this game, they were out of the house.
Got it.
And I always felt like you should have a sibling. It keeps you on your toes.
Tippity toes.
So I'm choosing 2, 3, 4. My counterpart is choosing 10 or 20.
So why do you think? So playing this game is kind of like something that was setting you up for the future, and you could imagine your life.
Yeah.
And you mentioned 30 years later, now here you are, and the things that you may have fantasized about has not come to light yet. Are you putting a time limit on it? When you were a kid,
I did.
When you were a child, you had an age where you wanted to meet these expectations in your life?
Yeah, by the time I was 25, I was supposed to be not only successful, I would have met my partner, and we would have spent a few years before we had our first kid. And I never wanted to be kicked from the inside, so I didn't want to actually give birth. I wanted to adopt. And so
I didn't want to be kicked from the inside.
Indeed.
Kick me on the outside. Okay.
Well, I was in Taekwondo for a good long time. The point is, I had these things set up in my head. First kid, 28. Second kid, 30. I wanted 4. So it was 32 and 34. Like, it was just going to happen. It's going to fall into place like that just because I wanted it. And I thought, I'm a good person. I deserve it. And now that's something that I am unpacking and trying to fix. Or not fix. My therapist does not like me using the word fix.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, what's interesting is that I had a conversation with someone the other day in regards to expectations on how to take a standardized test, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you're taught shortcuts to be able to get to the answer. And this individual, they like going the long way because they like seeing step by step how they got there. And if they do not get that last answer that everyone else got, they would like to see where they messed up at. And so that turned into a way of living life as an adult where I have to do A, B, C, D, and G, even though I know I can probably skip some steps, but I just have to go about that. Do you consider the fact that you set these standards, high standards of yourself, at a young age, where it's like, by this age, I have to do this. By this age, I have to have that. By this age, this partner is going to be like this, blah, blah, blah. And the fact that you, in your eyes, you did not accomplish it in that order, because I believe you will accomplish it.
Oh, thank you.
Do you feel that you let yourself down?
Yeah. That's something that I am trying to fix. That's something that I'm working on.
And so that's what I find interesting about MASH. It's like hearing you explain what it is, was it mansion, apartment, shack. House?
Yeah. 3 good options, 1 bad.
And then setting up what type of husband or mate you can have. If you want to have kids, what type of job or car you're driving. All of that. It's
where you live. Paris, California, Oklahoma.
It's like, it's almost, and if your friends are able to pick an option for you that might be the opposite of what you want, it's like, oh yeah, you got your mansion, but you're married to Flavor Flav. I think what that game also helps teach you at a young age is that you may not always get what you want.
Yes.
And if you're not getting everything, are you okay with adapting and allowing yourself to accept life as it comes?
Yeah,
versus trying to control
we would then play it again.
So it's about control.
Yes.
Well, I think if you had a conversation with your inner child, what would you say?
You don't always get what you want, and either find a way to be happy about it, or I don't know. You're just gonna be miserable, young Karen.
Well, that was a dark side to tell your kid. That was a dark
side. The truth.
I think I'm always that person that finds that silver lining. And I know since I've moved out here to LA, I have gone on so many detours or got kicked off my path. And I put myself down for a lot of the things I did not accomplish. And then I got to a point where it was like, I did not accomplish this. And I've been so focused on this. I didn't realize all of that I accomplished.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how all of this has been a light to family and friends and people I don't even know by the DMs I get or the messages I get. It's like we get so focused on what we think we are in control in, and we do not celebrate the things that we were not in control in and how we've been able to rebound, how we've been able to refocus, and how we've been able to accomplish at a whole nother level of things that we didn't consider. And so I think you owe it to yourself as an adult to tell your inner child, it's like, you may not get everything that you wanted, but there's going to be so much more in life that you will gain and you will appreciate that's going to help you get things that you never even imagined that you could have.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that reframe. I do occasionally do that. I'm still quite unsatisfied with some things, just the truth. And that's why I go to therapy every week.
Yes.
So, it's what I'm working on.
Yeah. You get it.
Thank you.
I'm working on it too.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why I can help provide that language.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is similar to the things I've been going through.
Yeah.
And like, if I didn't have that conversation with the person the other day and understanding some things that we did as kids or what happened to us as kids, how it's influenced how we move about in life right now, it was almost like we had an unpacking session. And for me, it turned into, well, how do I put a spin on this and not be upset that maybe what I thought as a child was negative, it may be a positive as an adult.
Sure. Yeah.
Just trying to.
I'm with you. I totally get you. It is just something that I struggle with. I wouldn't say on a daily basis, but at least, either weekly or every other week, where I'm just like, damn, this is just not what I thought it was going to be. And I am grateful for what I have, because I mostly have my health, but this body is creaking in a way that I was like, I'm never going to have this issue as long as I stay active. But no, being active actually hurts. It's a whole problem. So, it's hard, but I do appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. So speaking of appreciating, we would appreciate that if you have a story and you want to share it with the pod, go ahead and write to us at hopscotchandjackspod@gmail.com with story time in the subject. And we may use your story to help journey through an episode.
Yeah.
And other stuff.
Please write in. Thank you.
Oh, what's that? You know what time it is?
It's time for class.
Core curriculum. Yay!
Okay. So, have you ever felt like you've met your dream person? You start dating, and for a while, things are great. They may not be perfect, but it feels like they could be the one, until sometime later, you realize that they aren't who you thought they were. Either they aren't showing up the way they did when you first met, or you're seeing sides of them that you didn't anticipate. If you've had that experience, then you've probably dated the avatar. Our core curriculum today is sociology, and we're talking about the ways we hide behind avatars. That's the representative of you in video games or on social media, your profile pic, etc. Why do we date them? And how can we heal whatever wound created them?
So while you're trying to heal those wounds that created them, think about it. When you swipe, if you're in the app, like we had discussed previously, what's the unspoken story that your digitized avatar is telling people about yourself in these dating apps? Now, I listen to a lot of self-help podcasts and, and listen to a lot of audiobooks about self-help. I'm not going to sit here and say I read a lot because, it's something about the voice that tunes me in. I like listening to Jay Shetty, and he's a prominent voice in living your purpose. And in some of his episodes, he has touched on some of the challenges when you're dating at this date and age, particularly in the digital age, and focuses on the impact of the inner child work and the realities of dating online or dating in this fictitious world that we've set up for ourselves. He really dives in and emphasizes the importance of self-compassion, authenticity, and emotional maturity in navigating relationships, including those found on dating apps. Shetty encourages individuals to connect with their inner child, which is something that we're going to try to do in this episode for this core curriculum, in order to understand their emotional needs, their reactions in dating, and to build more genuine connections by being true to themselves, as well as highlighting the need to manage expectations, avoid getting lost in the digital world, your digital mind, your fictitious mind, and focus on building real life connections. So it's no surprise that Bumble is going down. I mean, people need to focus on real life connections, right?
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. So in order for us to understand where we're going and how we want to maneuver in this current state of mind, how should we start? What is it that we can say may have influenced us or impacted us as a child that has led us down this journey?
One of the biggest influences in my life, and I think this is kind of true for a lot of people, movies and fairy tales. Hollywood set us up for this, I don't know, big fantastical love story and this idea that we were going to, have it all and it was going to be, easy. It's all, as long as you worked hard, you would achieve your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And woo-wee, that was a lie. I just gotta say I work real hard. Anyway, so I'm joking mostly. So the very first movie that I saw in theaters, and therefore this is the reason why it's one of the most prominent movies that I've ever seen, one of the most influential movies that I've ever seen, was Little Mermaid, the Disney movie, the cartoon. I watched that movie, and it was my favorite movie for a long time, followed by Aladdin, and then, other Disney movies. But this one, when you look at the story, this idea that this young girl, she was, I think, supposed to be like 16, she sees this guy from afar. He's gorgeous. He gives her butterflies. And she's like, I need to be with this man. And she tries to, well, she doesn't try. She actually succeeds in managing to get him by giving up her voice and leaving her family and the world that she's known. She's never been outside of the water. And she's doing this all to achieve this romantic goal. And I have to say that I wouldn't say that I was, thinking that wasn't realistic. I'm not a mermaid. But I did think that was true love. Like, I didn't see anything wrong with that idea. And it's just like, you don't even know this person, and yet you've given up everything for them. And I feel like that's kind of what we do. No. We're not giving up anything generally, but we are putting all of our eggs in that basket. And before we get to know someone, we're essentially seeing their avatar and going for it. And I don't think that makes very much sense.
So subliminally, The Little Mermaid, even though you knew it wasn't real, because it's like, I'm not a fish. I'm not half fish. I'm not half fish. It made you feel as a child, because I think it was the same thing with me, in the fact that if you truly love someone, you do choose them over your family. You choose them over your own goals in life.
Mm-hmm.
And
especially as a woman.
And that was another thing. It was a woman giving away everything that she desired or she had for her future to be with this man.
That she didn't even know.
That she didn't know. And, when you meet this avatar in life or in the digital platform, you fall for an individual who has not yet shown you everything about themselves, but you fall for what you have desired, because this is what influenced you as a kid. It's like, oh my God, they're coming to see me. Oh my God, they're doing everything that I have not experienced with other partners in life. And it's still doing the honeymoon phase, right? But you're just going through these movements as if this is it.
Yeah.
And, I think Hollywood has capitalized off of the weakness of us as humans and always wanting a life outside the life they actually live. They want the fantasy. They want to be a hopeless romantic. They want to have that mansion. So let's feed it to them. Let's spoon feed it to them, right?
Yes.
And make believe that we all gonna be eating at one time
Yeah.
in our life, you know? And when we don't meet those expectations as an adult, it hits hard, because I think it's the reason why it impacts us on an emotional level that's very intense is because internally that inner child has been let down, and is now we're feeling the pain as if we are that 10-year-old.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And as an adult, we can brush it off a little bit, but we
Most
feel
of the time we ignore that shit.
we ignore. We're like, mm-mm.
Push it down.
Push it down, swallow it, shit it out later. But that inner child,
Wow.
yeah,
What a visual.
you know. But it is about that pain that you're feeling. That emotional connection might not be the emotion that you're feeling in your adulthood. It's an emotional connection that you had in your youth.
Yeah. So what influenced you?
Ooh, You Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. I think that was the beginning of digital dating.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody had that AOL inbox, and it became very popular for it to pop up, and you know, you do your thing. But it was also a situation where you can meet somebody out there in the world digitally and find true love. So that was something that influenced me and gave me high hopes. And I think every time I did connect with somebody and we actually did start dating from a dating app, when I started using the dating apps, I thought about that moment. And maybe I was living, not just falling for the avatar that this person was presenting to me, I was living out a fantasy that my younger self had imagined what happens when you find somebody on the app.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking for the stories online. Like, how did you guys meet? Oh, we met on Bumble. How did you guys meet? We met on Her. You know, those stories inspire you to be like, well, let me get on these apps. But what they're not telling you is that they probably met quite a few people on that app before they got to that one person.
Right.
You know, and it's okay. I mean, that's what life is. It's gonna, you know, you may not get Will Smith at the beginning, and you might end up with Flavor Flav, but then you might divorce Flavor Flav and start meeting other people on your timeline.
Please don't put him in my wedding vows.
You already put him on MASH. I'm just saying. I'm just letting you know. I'm letting you know, like, you know, the game stopped at 4 people. There's probably a lot more than 4 that's going to come in your life. So, yeah, that game teaches you about limitations too. You limit your expectations. No, don't limit yourself. Don't shortfall yourself. So anyway, yeah, so that was something that influenced me.
Yeah. So here's the question. What do we need to do? What do we need to work on in order to heal the thought patterns that fairy tales and Hollywood fostered in us?
What do we need to work on to heal the false fairy tales? A lot. One of the things that we just need to acknowledge that it's okay to desire and want more. But if you don't accomplish that goal, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get something close that you wanted. And then it becomes a situation where, am I settling? And I think that's society's fault, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're young, they're like, don't settle.
Yeah.
Don't settle for anything less. that's something that we need to just heal ourselves from. We're thinking we're always settling. And then sometimes we look back at our parents, and I'm not speaking personally or anything like that, but some people look back at their parents and like, oh, they just settled for each other.
Yeah.
I don't want that for myself.
Yeah.
Or friendships. You were the first person that shared a cookie with me, and now we're best friends for life. Get your head out the motherfucking gutter.
Right.
Okay?
Even my head was not in the gutter.
Lies.
It wasn't.
Lies.
Okay. I think you set yourself up for that one.
And, the point is, this may have been a toxic friend.
Yeah.
And you settle. Or you feel like you're in it and you're afraid to let go. And I think that's another thing. It's like when we're being told, like, set your vision board and you continue to pursue that goal in life. And if you keep hitting speed bumps or holes in the ground or getting off the ramp or the wrong ramp and all this stuff, you continue to move forward for that. Sometimes it's okay to pivot. You don't have to continue to put yourself through that shit. It's not you settling. It just may be you just need to pivot.
Right.
And you may get there, but the only way you might have to be able to get there, it might be down a different path that you didn't see. So just pivot.
Right.
Don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah.
So I think those are the things that we need to work on internally in order to heal ourselves. Because like I said before, that sense of feeling let down or that pain that we might be feeling in adulthood is tethered to our feelings as a child.
Yeah.
It might not be how you're really feeling as an adult. It's just, ooh.
I mean, a lot of times when I can imagine, and, speaking from, some personal experience, you, as a child, you go and say, oh, I don't want this thing. And it's so many different things. Like, I hated broccoli as a kid. Now I eat broccoli. It's probably one of the vegetables I eat the most. Like, I made up my mind as a child, and I did not grow out of that until I was well into my 30s. I don't know. I probably started eating broccoli in my 20s. But generally, the point is we come up with these ideas that we hold on to because of whatever reason, probably comfort. And, fear of not knowing something, fear of not making the right choice out of the transition period, the pain we might feel in that, or we are afraid of at the end we still don't get what we want. Like, it is deep and psychological. But I think we have digressed quite a bit. I want to talk about the pretense and what that looks like in dating. Whether you've met someone online or if you've met them in person, there's a period of time where we're kind of pretending to be perfect. Mm-hmm. We're not showing various sides of ourselves because we want to project a certain image. Probably that we got it all together. You're looking like I'm tripping.
No, I was just thinking, are we pretending or is this who we really want to try to be?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I mean, my thing about it is I remember a time when I was dating somebody who was long distance. It wasn't actually off of an app. It was Instagram. It was an app, but it wasn't a dating app. It was Instagram, because Instagram is a dating app a little bit.
Instantly.
It's an instant Instagram dating app. So yeah, we spent like a month cupcaking, and I call it cupcaking. To me is, just being on the phone, talking, and just, talking sweet to each other, essentially. Cupcake sweet. So a month in, or it wasn't a whole month, it was maybe like 2 or 3 weeks into us talking, I realized that I was not sarcastic at all during these cupcaking sessions. we're on the phone, we're watching these movies together, and every time I talk, everything that comes out of my mouth is the sweetest thing. And if you've met me, you know that I'm very sarcastic, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Get it together. Get it together.
To a fault.
I think it's charming. But the point is, I realized this, and I actually was like, I don't want to just hit her with a sarcastic barb. I actually want to let her know that, hey, I realized that, because that's just who I am. I could have just done something different. I could have just laid it out there, kept pretending to be this person who never has a sarcastic word. But I thought it'd be better to just tell her. And so I told her. And she was like, what's that look like?
Do you think you were pretending that you weren't sarcastic, or there was just no need to be sarcastic?
I think that it's probably there was no need to be. Like, I literally was just, this was during COVID. I, was looking for connection. It was just all fun. We weren't really talking about anything serious. There was to me, it was literally, I just want to feel good and have conversation. It's not like, the reason I'm hesitating when I say this is it implies that sarcasm to me is not feeling good or whatever. I just didn't feel a need to be funny.
Well, I mean, sarcasm can be funny, and sarcasm can also come across as being rude.
Yeah.
And dismissing the things that someone might be saying to you. So maybe when I think of sarcasm, I mean, I'm sarcastic.
Yeah.
Right?
I think most people are.
But between you and me, it's like we can say things sarcastically knowing that it's coming from a place of peace and fun and things like that. But when you're meeting somebody for the first time and not knowing what type of dating experiences or relationship experiences they've had, or even the trauma that we all have from childhood to adulthood, when you say something sarcastic and they don't know the real you yet, or know enough about you to know that you're coming from a place of peace, they could take it the wrong way. And if you don't want them to if you're like, I really like this person, I don't want them to take me the wrong way, then subconsciously you might not have been sharing sarcastic viewpoints, right? But then as you guys started to grow, there's a possibility, growing, getting to know each other, there was a possibility that you may have had a conversation, and a sarcastic response may have popped into your head, and you were probably like, wait, I don't know if I can say this. You probably had an internal conversation while you were having a conversation with this person. Yeah. And then it wasn't until you guys hung up that you were like, wait a minute, I wasn't able to be a version of me that this person hasn't seen yet.
Yeah.
And there's a fear, not saying that you knew it was a fear. Maybe you've had experiences where you've dealt with people that you've dated or friendships that when you said something sarcastic, they took it the wrong way. So internally, a sensor went off to block that from coming out, and then you had to have a conversation with yourself. Like, why did I do that?
That's pretty much what happened. I literally was at one point, I was gonna say something. I got so comfortable that it was just about to come out, and I was like, wait, hold on. I don't think I've ever said anything sarcastic to this woman. And that's really not who I am. I mean, I've actually changed a lot since then, because she was like, I don't know why you would want to hurt me. And I was just like, I don't want to hurt you. I literally am having this conversation.
So she did take the sarcasm as she identified that to hurt.
Well, what you said a few minutes ago about, you don't know people's trauma. I did not know her trauma, and she'd grown up with an abusive father, and, he called her dumb and shit like that. And so it was like me being sarcastic was me, making fun of her. So I've actually curbed that quite a bit. I might still say something sarcastic, but it's absolutely not going to be something that I think will trigger them. But of course, I don't know that. And when I'm meeting someone, I won't know that until, we've unpacked some various things.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, that is a form of abuse. When you are verbally abusive to someone, you're disguise it as if, oh, it's just being sarcastic. And when you're in a relationship where you are being manipulated at times, it has happened, not saying that's you, but people's experience has been like someone who they feel that they're not living up to the standards this other person has set on them to live up to. And anytime they try to live up to those standards, they get chopped down, and it comes out of a form of sarcasm. And it's just dismissing them, belittling, doing whatever you can to keep them down here. Then I can see that. I can see that fear. I mean, I have that fear sometimes. I mean, I'm a sarcastic person, but I've also dated people, or not even date, I mean, friends and family. You want to be this version for them, and if you're not living up, they say stuff like that. Why would you do that? Like, even the way that question comes out, the way they ask it is sarcastic. Like, oh my God, you think you did something big, and they like chop you down. Why would you do it like that? Why didn't you go about it this way?
I see that a little differently, though.
You see that differently?
Yeah, to me, sarcastic is, yeah, it's cold outside. Well, you're wearing no clothes and it's 60 degrees. Like, I might point out something that's obvious, but I'm generally not going to be like belittling you for an accomplishment or something like that. To me, that's abuse.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, people have grown up. Other people's experiences have led them down a path where certain things that what you would say, hey, it's cold. I'm saying it's cold outside. And then you're like, well, you're wearing no sleeves and it's 60 degrees. Pretty much you're saying, what do you expect? For you, it's just sarcasm and fun. But hearing it, that triggers. It might
trigger something.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I think you were very respectful in that situation to say, hey, I haven't been my authentic self with you. And I would like to share this other part of me with you. You opened up the door, and you were very mature about creating this conversation so that they understand where you're coming from. But if they weren't able to handle it, then it becomes a situation. It's like, do I like our relationship enough to make certain changes, not just for the betterment of our communication, but maybe this can be better for me in the future.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you just say you curve some of that.
Yeah.
And you curve some of that because
I don't want to hurt people. But also I have this, I don't know what it is, probably television, where, this is just a part of my humor.
He had The Simpsons growing up. Don't have a cow, dude.
Yeah. I watched one season of The Simpsons. But I had living single growing up, and all of the shows, the Jeffersons, Good Times, everything. I mean, Good Times was way before I was born. But different for you though. It was a Cosby Show for me. The point is, all of that gave me my humor. And that's just a part of it.
And it's also part of culture too.
Yeah.
That's something that we do in our culture.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact is, I was putting on just the lover. I was not putting on just Karen. I was moving in a way that was just, I want to get you closer, and I want to not pretend, but I want to, I just want to cupcake. Woo you. Yeah. That's it. I just want to be charming. And honestly, I think for what I'm looking for someone that I can be that with. I don't want to be with someone who I can't, if something funny pops in my head, I want them to laugh. I don't want them to go, well, why would you say that? I'm like, that's not going to work. That's an incompatibility. We could be friends, but I don't think we're compatible because That's not how I don't
'Cause
want to
you're gonna
censor
be
myself for the rest of my life.
Yep, you're gonna be censoring yourself with everything you say, and then questioning everything that you say. I mean, I
Exactly.
was trying to talk to someone recently, and this was like our second or third time on the phone, and in this conversation, I was checking anything I would say because I didn't want to offend her.
Right.
I didn't want to say something, not saying that what I was going to say was going to offend her. I would say the sky is blue, and then she would be like, well, actually it's lavender with and I'm like, oh my God, I can't. Like, I am not, like, where are we going with this? Why are you taking something that I've said, analyzed it, then come back with a whole nother perception of it? And I'm sitting here like, wow, I guess that's how I felt. I guess because
I mean, if
you're
that's
coming,
what you feel, then I guess that's what it is.
That's what it
Whatever.
is. You're coming from a hurt place, and you're assuming that anything that somebody says to you is going to be hurt.
Right.
And that's not fair for either one of you.
Right.
You know, so you got to walk away. And I think for those relationships that can move on past the honeymoon phase, are those relationships where people have come to the understanding that what?
I was gonna. I had something popped in. The answer popped into my head.
Well, I'm gonna let you
let
say the answer. No, because your neck came out like a giraffe.
I
It was
wish.
like.
I wish.
So
These
I'm
traps, kind of,
No, you go ahead and answer because it was written all over your neck that you wanted that one. I was like, damn.
Now, see, we talked so much, I lost the question. Look here, I'm over 40.
I was saying that you guys have moved past. If you were able to move past the honeymoon stage, it's because of.
Well, I think it's because you've gotten past the you've gotten to the authentic stage where you are who you are and they are who they are, and you've accepted that. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of times that happens. Like oftentimes it's like when you're on the app with someone and suddenly it gets real and you're like, oh no, do I actually want this? Mm-hmm. And that's when they ghost you. That's like when you're talking to yourself in the chat.
It's like you're playing this game of Nintendo, and then it's like, oh, nope, I want to start over. Yeah. And you just start over. Yeah. Doom, 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 doom. Mario,
exactly.
Nope. I didn't hit that. Let me go back.
That's the problem with the apps. You're just a number. You're just another number. And everyone is just, on the shitter, going back and forth. Like, okay, not you. Next. Yeah. And even people who say they want a relationship, they're not willing to actually work through shit. Yeah. Like, that's actually one of the signs that I look for. Like, are you someone I can work through conflict with?
And if you're doing that at that early stage, then
no, not on the app. If we ain't gotten off the app,
and you're already But if you're even at a stage that is so early in your discovery of each other, then that starts bringing out other situations like attachment styles and things like that, which we can get into later.
So we are talking about being on the app and even getting off the app or meeting in person, and we've pretended to be something that we're not really. Why are we doing that? Why are we putting up a facade? Why are we taking our avatar off the app into the relationship? What happens to get us out of that honeymoon phase and into our authentic selves?
I think the reason why it prolongs at the beginning of the relationship is because we are dedicated and trying to prove to ourselves and this person that we are the choice and we're not the option.
Because there's so many choices out there.
There's so many options out there.
Oh, yeah. No.
And if you are in that situation where I can talk to this person, this person, this person, this person, it's like, no. I am the choice. I'm the one that's going to live up to your expectations. I'm the one that's going to, if you want to get married, it's going to walk you down that aisle. I'm the one, if you're looking to start a company, and I'm going to put my stuff aside to help you build that. Right. And then you have to ask yourself, if you are willing to stay in that avatar stage for so long, what is it about yourself that you fear of not being?
Not being accepted, fear of abandonment, fear of being alone for the rest of your life. So you pretend, but not knowing that your relationship will not last regardless, because you're not being who you are. You can't pretend for 50 years. It does not work. They're going to figure it out. And you might as well be who you are from the beginning. Like, that's how I move now. I try. And sometimes I'm having a conversation with myself, like, is this who I want to be for the next 50 years? Now I go into relationships saying, I cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. That's how I move nowadays. And it's taken me a very long time to get there. An embarrassingly long time to get there. But I have to check myself sometimes because I cannot do that. I don't want to do that. I want no parts of it. Because the reality is, I would rather be myself and be alone than to pretend and have to deal with the issues of, feeling like I'm not being loved for who I am. You know what I mean? I don't know. What do you think about that?
When you gotta love yourself first.
Yeah, absolutely. Why am I choosing someone else over me?
You know what I'm saying? And then you just made yourself the option and then realized you were doing it because you were trying so hard to prove that you weren't.
But you're always an option. That's the thing. I think a lot of people go into relationships thinking, if I can pretend long enough, then I will have this person. Once they commit, then we're good. We're locked in. Lies. The divorce rate is 50%. And most relationships don't don't last. And I mean most relationships in general. I know it sounds dark and sad, but the fact is, most relationships don't get to marriage. And
I know, I'm one of
them-
those people. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I guess for me, it's like when I'm in a relationship, I know there's options out there, but I'm not actively looking at these options. I'm focused on the individual that I have decided that I'm connected with. And if this is a legit relationship, like I fantasize from my childhood and the way Disney and all these movies have made it, then they wouldn't be out there looking either. And not saying that doesn't happen. I mean, if you find that right person, you keep saying, if I find that right person, then I won't say anything that could offend them or take them to that level to not want to be with me.
I can't make that commitment.
You can't, no, but the situation is that if you are in a relationship and you guys have chosen each other, you create a strong foundation, because anybody who is a mature adult is going to understand, in order for you guys to build up, you have to have a strong foundation. If you're going in the relationship with a foundation that's not settled, that hasn't fully been set in place, you're going to allow the different options to shake your world up. But if you go in there and you have made that foundation, made that commitment to be with this person and all these other things that you feel that you've had on your vision board, then no, I don't see another option. My choice for me is the person who I'm with. If they start running out and start thinking, they need their space or they're questioning us, then I'm like, okay, I understand that. Okay, they're considering their options. That's what they're doing. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with what they want in life. And maybe what they were envisioning wasn't what it was, but you got to be transparent. Honesty is bullshit. You can't tell somebody, I was honest with you, but the problem is you weren't transparent with me.
Right.
To explain that, you can't sit there and say, okay, you go out and I'm like, hey, It's 10. You're just not getting back. What's going on? And then you're like, oh, I was out with my friends. And you leave it like that. You were honest with me. You were out with your friends. But if you proactively called me up and said, hey, babe, I'm going to be late. I'm going out with some friends and so-and-so's going to be there and this person's going to be there. So don't wait up for me or anything. That's being transparent. That's me trusting you because you offered that information and I didn't have to go around digging for it. The situation is that if you're committed on laying that foundation with somebody, then you shouldn't allow options to creep in. And we're all human, and I get that. And maybe that's my vision board and that's my inner child right now lashing out because I want that story. I want to be able to find somebody that I can commit to and they can commit to me. And I can't control them, but I can only control me. And so if I'm doing everything that I can do to be a good partner, because I'm not going to be perfect. There's no way I can be perfect. I'm going to make my mistakes. But I expect the same grace given to me as I'm going to give to them.
Yeah, I hear you. That to me sounds very reasonable. It's, a lot like what I'm looking for, but we're talking about at the early stage,
Mm-hmm.
the avatar. You should not be bringing an avatar into a relationship. That's kind of why I have the parameters around relationships that I have, where I generally am not trying to commit to someone until I feel like I know them well enough to do so. A lot of people meet someone, however they meet them, and they go, you are my person until you're not. And I'm like, why don't you wait until you know this person, until they're no longer an avatar, until you have a sense of who they are? The thing is, we are dating people and we see their avatars, we see who they're presenting themselves to be, and we're going, okay, so this is my Princess Charming. Mm-hmm. And no, they're not your Princess Charming because you've only known them for 2 months. And there is very little chance that you know them well enough to commit to never seeing anyone ever again.
I guess that's the thing about life. It's that it's just like with jobs, it's just like with friends, it's just like with where you're going to live. I mean, you can live in this apartment, you can live in an apartment down the street. You know what I'm saying?
But you're not getting a house in California without $1 million.
Right?
1.5 actually.
1.5. But I guess what I'm saying is it's like going to an art show and having all these beautiful choices or options in front of you to buy.
Mm-hmm.
The situation is there's always going to be more.
Yes.
And when it's like it's like I can't go, I guess I can say I can go into a relationship thinking and wishing for the best.
Yes.
And I will allow that silver lining to stretch a little bit. But what I can't put myself through is going to a relationship or leaving an app or talking to somebody knowing that I'm already knowing that, okay, in the first 2 weeks, it's going to feel like roses. And I feel like after the first 2 weeks, pieces of their true identity starts to creep in.
Yes.
And right then I start managing for myself if I can accept this, if I can accept that.
Yes.
And I have grown into a position where I can actually verbalize it.
Yeah.
And share. And then how a person reacts. Some people are going to react with their inner child. They're going to lash out. Some people are going to react with trauma. Some people are going to react with triggers that you can't control.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day I have to be willing to accept, which I have, that we all have a complex identity. And the whole point of dating someone is to court them and get to know them over a period of time. But at the same time, if you are deciding that this is going to be the individual for you and you want to build, if you continue to allow options to creep in, doing those first 3 months, then you would never get to, we're going to go to a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months.
I disagree.
You're going to be just out there dating.
I disagree.
You disagree?
Yes.
I don't disagree.
Here's the thing. I have been in that position. I date people up until 3 months. I don't generally stop dating people until I have dating other people until I've dated this one person that I want to see for 3 months. And I did this little experiment last year where I was dating 3 people at the same time. And actually, it's not true. I didn't date 3 people at the same. Yeah, I was talking to 3 people.
Okay.
We were all on the app. I was dating all of them from the app. We started the conversation.
So you were in the app digitizing your relationship.
Sure.
It wasn't in the real world.
Sure. Let me tell a story.
Okay, so it wasn't in the real world.
Let me tell a story.
All right.
So I meet 3 people within weeks of each other. Probably 2 weeks, I meet 3 people. And it was probably more than that. But the point is, slowly but surely, they started to drop off, and it was 1. We were down to 1 is the point. I think the first one to drop off was in the app. And then I was seeing them. And I went on 3 dates with 2 of the other 2. And by the time I hit the 3rd date with the other 2, I hit one of them with the question, like, how do you see this dynamic? Like, what do you feel about this? And she was like, I don't know what that means. So I was like, do you feel like we can get somewhere? And she was like, no, not really. And I was like, okay, cool. Then I'm going to stick with this one because I did feel like it. I didn't have to ask that question to it because I felt like I was getting the reciprocity back from that person. The point is, I am someone who wants to just go into it based on those 2 weeks of fluttery feelings. The butterflies, it seems to be working, but I know that I don't know these people. I agree that you have to make a commitment, but I don't think that needs to happen before you feel like you know that person well enough.
Well, I never said you have to make that decision before you know that person well enough. I'm saying
you said you'll keep dating. And
no, I said if you guys have both made the commitment.
Oh yeah,
to
that's different.
Talk. That's what I'm saying. Because people fall out. Because people fall out of relationships after they made that commitment, and they don't give that opportunity to see if they can pull through it. They're so quick to, oh, there's that red flag and go, and it's like, wait, but we've already said that we're going to commit to try to take it to the next level,
right?
And you know, another just one thing is like sometimes people stay in that avatar phase because maybe they're just cooler than who they really are.
The avatar is cooler than they are. Yeah, I get that, but that is not. You can't pretend that long. Like, why would you? I don't know why anyone would want to do that. I understand. There are a lot of. I want to say women, but I do think a lot of people will do it because this is what I think that person wants. So I'm going to pretend. Like I did that. I went out with a bunch of guys, like first dates. I'm gonna dress a little bit more femme because I think more men like femme women. And sometimes when I get with a woman who is really femme and I think that she's looking for someone who's more of a stud, I'm gonna do a little bit more. I'm not gonna wear the hoops. I'm not gonna do something that I think that she's not gonna like. And I'm like, how do I feel? You know, but like I said, it took a long time to get there. I don't want to be the avatar for someone else, and I don't want to date the avatar. I would like to meet you as you are, and then I can decide whether or not I can commit to you. And I'm not going to do that before I feel like I know you.
Yeah, you don't want to end up committing yourself in a $50 million estate home as well as a marriage that was advertised across the world that you spent millions on, and then within 6 months you guys are getting a divorce.
Celebrities do that? Are we talking about a specific one?
We are.
Who did that?
J-Lo and Ben Affleck.
Oh, okay. Did they get married again?
Yeah,
no,
that was a whole Ben 2.0. Wait,
yeah, I didn't know they got married again.
Yeah, they never got married in the first place.
Oh, so they got married the second time they were together.
Yeah, they were engaged, and then they called the wedding off like the date of at the beginning in their first relationship, and then 20 years later, they were still fantasizing about this love, but I would hate to be J-Lo in the situation where you poured all your love out, and the way she did it was visual, and maybe that wasn't in alignment with how he wants his love to be represented.
I have heard
And
from
there were some
people,
boundaries that were crossed.
well, that's a different conversation. But I've heard from people who do commit to the person that they meet and they like them and they like, I'm just gonna stick with this person until they show me that they're not who I think they are.
Mm-hmm.
And their response is, you know, that's how you love. That's great. That this
Yeah.
is the chance you take when you're looking for love. It's not always gonna work out, and that's fine. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's good for
That's
you.
what you want.
Whatever.
I don't like playing with people's hearts.
Right. But I mean, if you're doing it genuinely, you're not playing with their hearts. I'm just not. I guess I'm too avoidant for that. Anywho, so they say that you're supposed to come up with a list. Some people say you're supposed to come up with a list for the traits that you want in a partner. Have you ever done such a thing?
I've come up with the list of the type of person I want to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I do believe your partner would be a mirror of you. The good, the bad, and the ugly. But there are some things that I may add in there that I may be lacking, and hoping that that other person can fulfill and help me mature into. And I hope I am that person for them as well. So I've heard of people doing that. It's not something that I do now. I'm pretty sure I did it as a kid in high school. I'm pretty sure I did it in high school.
So you've not come up with a list in your adulthood?
My adulthood.
Or a vision board?
After I went through a first situation I was in, and when I decided to start dating again, I did have a vision board of what I wanted to be for a person and what I want them to be for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been picking those individuals. And each time I am getting close to getting everything checked off. I have noticed that, like, every time, if you move on to another person, you better be stepping up. That's my thing. I'm not gonna go down. I want to step up. And
wait, what do you mean?
Meaning I'm not gonna go back in time. Like, I'm gonna date somebody that's at where I'm at now or above. I'm not gonna meet someone that's not where I'm at.
Someone who's not fully potential?
I think anytime you go into a relationship, there's always a potential situation. I think what I'm trying to say is I'm not going to repeat relationships that I have in the past. Like I said, each person that I've been with has checked off an additional box on my list that I guess I did come up with, from the vision board when I decided to date again. But those boxes that have not been checked off, I don't know if it has to do with them or has to do with I haven't learned my lessons yet. So therefore, I'm not getting that yet. And so I don't think that's a person that I'm dating's responsibility to do for me. I need to heal myself, and so that I can welcome that other side that I'm looking for. So when I say when I move forward into another relationship, it's gonna be time. It's like I'm not saying that I'm picky, and I'm not saying I'm not gonna settle. But what I'm saying is I am not going to, if I'm talking to someone and I'm seeing traits from a toxic side of a relationship I was in, then I know that this is possible. I give them grace to show me differently. Maybe it's just a trigger or a trauma or something that I'm projecting.
Right.
But if it's not, one time, 2, 3, or 4 times, usually around the 5th time, I'm like, okay, this is just who they are. And I have to make a decision if I'm going to keep moving forward with that.
Right.
And ironically, depending on who you're talking to, you can figure that out in the first 2-3 weeks of talking to them.
Yeah.
So I've done the list, and I forgot that I've done the list, but yeah, I've done the list.
Yeah.
And I'm getting close, but I'm also getting close to being more of the person that I see myself as well.
Yeah. I've done the list. I haven't done the list the way you did it, where it was, this is who I want to be for my person. I have heard that you should not be asking for things from a partner that you are not willing to give. So I do work to be the best version of myself that I can be, but I'm not looking for my person to have all of my traits, because I am looking for that person who is a compatible person, for me. Like, I'm looking for that person who got that financial piece. And you know what's funny? And I don't mean having the finances, but has that investment financing background. Like, that would be really great. And it's funny because what you're saying, I resonate with a lot of it, because I feel like every person I've dated in the past maybe 10 years has helped me to evolve into the person that I am. And it's because it has reflected back to me that this is something that I might like or dislike about that person. And I see it and I go, I am that or I'm not that. And I want to be that or I don't want to be that. It has helped me a lot in that regard. So I'm always looking for, what is the lesson in this relationship or this connection? Because it's not always a relationship. Like, I dated someone who was very spiritual last year. And by spiritual, I mean she was really into Buddhism and meditation and stuff like that, which I am into. And she was so much more evolved in that than I was. And I was like, man, I want to get there. I'm still very far from it. But from what I understand, it's a 10-year journey, or 10 plus, it could be a 10 plus year or lifelong journey. And it's really not my business how well I do. I just have to keep trying. Anyway, the point is, I think that that's one of the things about relationships that you should be looking at, you should be striving for. But yeah, I have definitely done the list, and some people will say you shouldn't have a list at all. Some people will say you should have 3 things on the list that you're looking for from a partner, or you should have 20. And I think that that's a little bit, I really don't know what the who's the expert that I should be listening to. I think having 20 things and being okay with not having a few of those is, it makes sense, because you can be specific. You can't be specific if it's only 3 things. You're looking for what? Trustworthy, stable, mentally and financially, but that's technically 2.
Yeah.
You want to be attracted to them. You want them to be emotionally
available.
Yeah, like, there's too many things to just do 3. So I don't know. I really don't know what the what guidance we should be following. But Viola Davis tells a story about doing a list before she met her husband, like 3 weeks later. And he had all of those things on her list.
And it was 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
I'm saying you can.
But she was talking to Jesus, and I don't really talk to him like that. Like, he a homie, but
So were you trying to say that Jesus blessed her in 3 weeks?
I'm just saying that was a piece that...
I mean, she's kind of blessed.
She's very blessed with talent and funds and a husband. A spouse, because I'm not looking for a husband.
She's and family, her kids.
Yeah,
she's very much so.
She's very blessed.
Yeah.
And maybe God has something to do with that. But all I was saying is that when she tells the story, she speaks about God and her faith and all of that stuff. So I don't think that we can ignore that piece. We can, but
no, don't ignore it. But I mean, I know you're spiritual.
Yeah.
So I mean, God could be anything.
Right. God is, a guide for me.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it worked for her, but are we limiting ourselves? Are we asking for too much when we do these lists?
I don't know if we're limiting ourselves. I don't know if we're asking too much. You got to figure it out for yourself. I think to each their own. If someone wants to make a 20 page list or one page list and or one line list. And
Someone
that's
who's
all
good
that they
to me.
and that's all they need, then that's all they need. Who are we to judge? You know, it's like I think if there's a person for you out there, not if, I know everybody probably has a soulmate, has their significant other, and their soulmate might not be the person they're dating. It could be a coworker that you're just friends with. It doesn't have to be someone.
That's a different episode.
Yeah. Let's just move on. I guess we're at a point where we need to figure out if our avatar is a true representation of your inner child. And why are we living behind avatars, not just on dating apps, but also on other platforms, from our clothes to the environments that we put ourselves in, from how we get cars and, show off our cars and everything. Are we trying to protect ourselves? Or is it something else? Like, what are we doing? It's like there's a lot of people out here, especially here in LA, that lives in an apartment because honestly, that's all you can afford. But they might be living in an apartment where you're touching all four corners. And then
you put your hands out, because people who listen and don't know what that is.
Oh, yeah, I put my hands out. So you're touching, you can put your hands out and you can touch all four walls in the place. But then they're driving around in a Mercedes Benz and they're wearing Gucci. And, the question is, why are they doing that? They can't, if they're living in a shack, how can they afford this car? Right. How can they afford this lifestyle that they're portraying? And then the question becomes, well, maybe for me, it becomes, maybe they are putting it out there in the universe. They want to attract they want to attract the people who are attracted to that lifestyle. Yeah. Oh, this is going to get me that hot girl. Or this is going to get me the hot man, right?
Faking the funk, in my opinion. Funk.
Or they want to manifest and put themselves in a position where the people who they seek to be like notice them. That is one of the things I think people do, is they continue to try to be something that they may truly want to be.
Yeah, I mean, that specifically, the dating and pretending to be the healed person, because that's what I'm thinking when we think of dating. Okay. Pretending to be the person who is ready to be in a relationship and ready to make that commitment. Like, I do think that there is some truth in that, especially considering that I don't know that if you can heal a relationship wound outside of a relationship, like, I think that is much harder to do. Yeah. You can work on yourself, but it's kind of like the idea that, you can't build your self-esteem without community. Yeah. You can say, yes, 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 this is what I am. But if you're in a community that doesn't reinforce that, you're never going to believe it. Not for real. Yeah. Not somatically. Yeah. And that's very, very hard. But yeah, I think that there is truth in that. You have to fake it till you make it. I don't think that I understand why you hear a negative connotation, but I don't. Faking the funk, negative connotation. Fake it till you make it is a totally different thing, because that is still your goal. Mm-hmm. Faking the funk, however, is like, I'm pretending to be this thing, and I don't necessarily actually desire to be that thing. Mm-hmm. Charlatans fake the funk, whereas someone who's faking it till they make it, they're actually trying to make it. Mm-hmm. How do you get there if you're actually not working towards making it? But anyway, the question is, why do we have these avatars, and what we can do to repair the thing that is broken, that, the wound that led to us having these avatars. No?
I'll let you answer.
Okay, I'll answer that question. I think that therapy is a very big part of that. Mm-hmm. You can do it without therapy. You can, therapize yourself a little bit by recognizing. That is a very big part of the work. recognizing why you have these issues, why these are uh, patterns that are holding you back, why they exist in the first place, and how you can repair that brokenness. It's not the fixing thing that I talk about in therapy.
Mhm.
It's more the acknowledgement that this is a thing that needs to, that I would be better if I could put this down.
Mhm.
And, you know, you do that with the journaling, the, you know, speaking to people, having the community. You do that with reparenting your inner child. Like, instead of admonishing and saying, you know, yourself and saying that you didn't achieve this and there's something wrong with you, and, you know, that inner critic that, you know, tears you down, you have to recognize that that's what's happening and say, you know, I know.
Yeah.
I will not do that with myself anymore.
Mhm.
Like, the outside pressure, the outside society might say that, you know, I'm a failure because I have not done this, that, or the third thing. But actually, the outside world didn't live my life, and they don't have the authority to tell me any of those things. I have the authority to tell myself that I'm doing okay. I woke up this morning, I got out of bed, maybe I didn't, but, you know, I am still here.
Yep.
And I still have the opportunity to do it again tomorrow.
Mhm.
Do something different today than I did yesterday.
Mhm.
And hopefully be better today than I was yesterday. And it's just, you know, you continue on in that way, and hopefully you will repair that damage.
Yeah.
What say you?
I agree.
All right. After school, we take a dip in the pool, which is really on the wall. I gotta cuddle the TV so I could see the Knicks play basketball. The rhythm was off, but, you know.
Well, yeah, you're that black person without rhythm. That's okay.
I'm not
Oh,
without rhythm. I'm just rhythmically challenged.
Can you feel the rhythm of the night?
Anyway, what you working on?
I'm just working on personal projects.
Okay.
I'm gonna start doing some things that are for me, not for promoting or anything like that. Just internal work, projects. I'm a project.
Yes, we all are projects.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
What about you, friend?
I am working on my novel. Honestly, doing this episode and, you know, thinking about playing MASH, it actually got me into a groove. Or I don't know if I'm quite in the groove just yet, but I had stalled on what I was working on. And it's a story about two people from their childhood to their adulthood. And doing the MASH just brought up a lot of memories. And I just kind of like was able to take some stuff and, you know, evolve it into some of the stuff that my characters were going through.
Okay.
And it just really sparked something in the story that was already there, but it just, you know, it got me out of the crater, the block. It got me beyond the block.
Okay.
So I appreciate that for that. So good job, MASH.
So what are you doing for self-care?
Self-care, I am going to therapy. I've mentioned it several times this episode, and yeah, I really do appreciate having that place in which to unpack a lot of stuff. So it is, and I always say that I don't do self-care. I'm not good at it. You know, I'm very much like, what is the practical thing I'm going to get out of this thing, where that is not really good. And I also, like, there's a lot of thing that goes into why I'm bad at self-care, but I do the therapy every week that I can. Obviously, sometimes, you know, if I'm out of town, I'm not doing it or whatever. But it is the thing that I think is very consistent in my life that is actually, evolving. I feel like I'm getting something out of it. And I've previously been in therapy with therapists who I don't get anything out of it. Like I am showing up and paying for this thing and all I'm doing is complaining. And that's not evolving my life. So
Yeah. That makes sense.
it's helping. What about you?
I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
I'm working out.
That's good.
And I'm doing additional steps for my health. Trying to stay on top of it. As you get to a certain stage in your life, you have to be a little bit more responsible with things that you may have not totally focused on when you were younger. What's crazy?
No.
It's that when you were younger, the older generation at that time said, you wait till you get this age. You're going to be doing that. And I'm at that age and I'm like, yeah, man. Okay, gotcha.
You understand?
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. But the funny thing is, there's always going to be a pattern with the younger generations. They're always going to think they know better.
Yeah.
Or know more.
Yeah.
So, or think there's going to be, and you know what? Maybe not. They may invent some type of pill where you don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
It's that close. AI is like, oh, we know how to save everybody's life. All right.
Until they turn into Skynet. Just saying. What about you? What about let's pull out something from the time capsule.
The time capsule.
Let's pull out something from the time capsule. Back in the day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. Some days I said I wish I was a kid again.
MySpace.
MySpace?
MySpace, that was the spot, man. The reason why I do that is because I'm doing a lot of digital work these days in rich media.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding this new wave of language, coding, analog, everything, puts me back in the state of mind when I was learning how to code for the first time with HTML, and MySpace was the spot that I learned it. Had the HTML5 for Dummies book and just was doing my thing. And so like everything that I'm learning now, or possibly not even fully learning, it's more like relearning, because I'm like, oh, I kind of did that back in the day. And then it's like, okay, it's still there. And I just added an extra level to it, leveling up. So yeah, I'm gonna go back to MySpace is my place. So what about you, my friend?
What am I taking out of the time capsule?
Yeah.
I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna crib and I'm gonna pull something from my childhood and say AOL chat rooms.
What
is what I'm going to take out of the time capsule?
All right, why?
Because it's from my actual childhood. I was in
dial-up and shit.
Yes. It was so terrible. It was so slow. We were talking to people, but it was so cool because we were talking to people who were living in other places. Did you ever do the ASL, age, sex, location? And I was like, I don't know why we were doing this because I was so innocent, Like we got the internet when I was 13 years old. And I had no clue why you were asking me my age, sex, and location.
ASL on AOL.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's funny. Like that was my first chat room experience. And when I saw you put MySpace up there, I was like, well, what about AOL? Did you get on AOL?
I mean, if you were in my inbox, you got mail. That was mail. I don't think I was in the chat rooms like that. I was in the chat rooms more of like, Janet Jackson's website, right? And she had a chat room for all her fans. And I was in college and I was in the chat rooms a lot. And so I did that, but I got kicked out. Yeah. It's like, I want to talk to Janet about that. I was like, yo, I don't know what's up.
What did you do?
I didn't do anything.
You said something.
I said Janet loves all
You-
types
you-
of people, and
you
she might
uploaded
even
something
involve. No, I was like, she might even be involved with all types of people, depending on what it was. And I guess the person in the chat room didn't like what I said,
The
and
moderator.
yeah, the moderator didn't like that, and they kicked me out.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was heartbroken. I was mad at Janet, but I was like, nah, Janet wouldn't do that. She ain't got time.
No, she was not
She
moderating
was,
the chat
She
room.
was like, what are these?
She was
folks
like, I
saying
got a
about
chat
me?"
room.
She's like, guys, hi.
Hilarious.
How long has this chat room been going on? Oh, so cute. Oh, what they
Oh,
say?
you love me? That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yes.
That's cool.
I'm.
Were you on college club?
No, it's not.
When I was in college, right before, I got out of college right when Facebook was taking off. And then like people in college were on Facebook and on MySpace, and I was just like, I'm not gonna do it. But just when I graduated, my friends were like, this is how we can keep in touch. And that's the only reason why I got on it. I didn't get on Facebook until like 3 or 4 years later. Like after it had already taken off, because I was like, I don't want any parts of this. And honestly, if I could go back, I wouldn't get on any of these things because I feel like they got all our data and I kind of hate it with a
They
passion.
suck it. Well, I think, of course, they have all our data, but I think the way they were using it then to how they're using it now, who would have known that that's what it was going to be?
All those writers who wrote The Terminator and all those other things, they knew.
Yeah, they saw into our future. I agree.
Okay, now it's time for some homework. And that is for you guys to follow us on Hopscotch-N-Jacks pod on Instagram. You know, write to us on hopscotchandjackspod@gmail.com with storytime in the subject. And subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you want to get to know us, you can reach Karen at
Karen Got This. And Justice at
Art of Justice with a IS, not a ICE.
Yes.
So subscribe, like, follow, and leave a comment below. And share, because sharing is
caring.
Yay!
After school, we take a dip in the pool, which is
Signing
really
off
off the wall. Bye.